Welcome. Today we're going to talk about prepositions, prepositional phrases, what they are, how to identify them, what goes inside them, what is never inside them, how they begin, how they end, and what not to confuse them with. We'll also talk about why the heck we even want to talk about prepositional phrases. So stay tuned. So I guess the best place to start is to talk about the definition of a prepositional phrase. Basically, there's two things you need to have. A prepositional phrase, which is just like any other phrase, a group of words. It always starts with a preposition, and it always ends with the first noun you come to. That noun is actually called the object of the prepositional phrase. So, starts with a preposition, ends with a noun. Sounds simple, doesn't it? So, to be able to find a prepositional phrase, you gotta find out what a preposition is. Here is a huge list of prepositions. Pause the video if you need to take a minute and just check them all out. And if that wasn't enough, we also have these things called compound prepositions, which are prepositions that are comprised of two words. So those also begin a prepositional phrase. Now that you have a huge list of prepositions and compound prepositions, the next thing you need to do is be able to really spot nouns really well, because prepositional phrases start with that preposition and end with the first noun you come to. Very important to be able to spot nouns. So if you don't feel comfortable doing that, go to the videos about nouns and check those out before continuing any further. Just do a little bit of practice here. Let's try to find the prepositional phrases. So, now that we have a huge list of prepositions and we know what nouns are, I think we can find these pretty quickly. Let's see, first sentence. The dog ran to his master. Oh, there we go. There's a good friend too. That's generally a preposition. Let's see if we can find a noun after it. Master, there we go. Noun or a pronoun. So, here is our prepositional phrase. Starts with a preposition, ends with a noun. Let's take a look at the next one. You can do grammar like a boss. Oh, preposition, we saw that from our list. Boss, noun, boom. Prepositional phrase. Okay. In this sentence, you will find the answer. Boom. In is a preposition from our list. End with the first noun you see. Bam. So, there you have it. To tell you the truth, the reason we have prepositional phrases is that they just add a little bit more detail to a sentence. They act like either adjectives or adverbs, just adding further description. Like in this first sentence, to his master. It's not necessary to the sentence. The dog ran. That would be fine by itself. But to his master kind of adds a little bit more detail to ran, how the dog ran. Just like in like a boss. You can do grammar. That's fine by itself as a sentence. But like a boss kind of adds a little bit more description on how you can do grammar. You do grammar apparently really well. Okay, and again, in this sentence, not necessary. You will find the answer, fair enough as it is. However, this adds a little bit more detail to where you will find the answer. So again, these phrases, they aren't necessary, but they generally add a little bit more description as an adjective or an adverb to some other word in the sentence. Now, there are some important things you need to know about what will never be in a prepositional phrase. You will never find the subject of a sentence. You'll never find a verb in a prepositional phrase. And you'll never find a direct object or an indirect object inside of a prepositional phrase. So that can kind of be really helpful once you know that, to know what is and what isn't a prepositional phrase. Take a look at some examples that we have posted on the blog to kind of get you used to that idea. As you can see in this sentence, we can literally cross these prepositional phrases off. And that actually helps us identify the other things in a sentence. That's one good reason why we want to know what prepositional phrases are, so we can kind of get rid of them and find the other useful parts of the sentence, like the subjects and the verbs. And even direct objects, if they're there. In part because we know that the subject, verb, and direct objects will never be inside of a prepositional phrase. Getting rid of the prepositional phrases kind of makes the sentence much more simple. Okay, now for the tough part. All prepositional phrases act like either an adjective or an adverb, depending upon which word they modify. So you got to be really clear on what an adjective and an adverb is before you proceed any further. Advanced stuff here. Let's take a look at some examples. In these three sentences, I've already identified the prepositional phrases for you, along with like the other stuff of the sentence. Like you have subjects, action verbs, linking verbs, predicate adjectives, so on and so forth. So, the first sentence, over the summer I slept. This prepositional phrase modifies either I or slept. What do you think? Which one makes more sense? It doesn't say what kind of I. It really kind of says how or in which way or when you slept. So it modifies slept. And as we know, hopefully, if something modifies a verb, it is going to be an adverb. So that whole prepositional phrase acts like an adverb. In the second sentence, the words in the sentence are weird. We've got to figure out in the sentence, what does that modify? Really kind of adds description to words. Which words? Words in the sentence. And so, if it's modifying the subject, which of course is always a noun, we know that this is going to be an adjective. This is also tricky as far as definitions go. When a prepositional phrase is an adverb, it's called an adverbial phrase. When a prepositional phrase modifies a noun, it's called an adjectival phrase. So again, third sentence. Jack was happy with her new glasses. With her new glasses kind of modifies this predicate adjective here. How is she happy? She's happy with the new glasses. So if it's modifying an adjective, hopefully you know if it modifies an adjective, something is an adverb. Now again, you won't be able to do this kind of stuff unless you're really familiar with what adjectives are and what adverbs are. But once you do, this is kind of doable. Check it out. Okay, in summary, we've talked about prepositions, all those huge lists of words that start prepositional phrases. We also know that prepositional phrases always end with the first noun you come to. There can be words in the middle of those phrases, like adjectives or adverbs, but you can never have the subject, a verb, or a direct object, or a predicate nominative within those phrases. We usually identify prep phrases to, kind of get rid of them. But we also know, and the advanced part of it, is that prepositional phrases always act like an adjective or an adverb. So, we've covered a lot of ground here. If you need to review, please do. There's also supplementary material on the blog.